All right, guys, we finally have the stats for the summer event ship. Okay, so let's see what we are looking at here in terms of stats for the Cnidarian Defender Tier 6. This is going to be the reward for the summer event that will be starting in 2 days from now and be running all of July. So this was released here this morning. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So I'll start with kind of a higher level kind of overview, and then we'll just go through the basic stats. So this is going to be a cruiser, a 4.4 with a miracle working spec, miracle worker spec. So it should lend itself pretty good to beam overload, broadsides, those kinds of things. You could do a threat tank with something like this. It does have the full suite of cruiser commands. The tracked fire or threatening stance, tracked fire. Sorry, I get the two mixed up all the time. So you could do something like that, like a heavy threat tank with this ship, or broadside beam overload build, dual beam bank. It is a 4.4. So for me personally, I probably would go with more of a beam broadside build on something like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the specs. So let's go on down the list here. It's tier 6. Any faction can use it. Must complete the tutorial, all the standard stuff. Hull modifier is 1.45, so pretty decent there. Shield modifier of 1. We have a 4.4 weapons layout with 4 device slots. Bridge officer seating, we are going to have 1 lieutenant commander tactical, 1 commander engineering, 1 lieutenant commander science, Sorry, I just broke it up here. 1 Lieutenant Commander Universal Miracle Worker. I don't want to say I'm surprised by this. We were kind of speculating we'd see Intel again or something like that. But I'm pretty happy that they went this route. So you can use mixed armament synergy. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that can be used in the Miracle Worker spec that will be advantageous to beam overload builds, those kinds of things. So especially for budget players, newer players, I think this is a solid layout in terms of the bridge officers and the way that the ship is currently configured here. For consoles, tactical, we have 3 slots available there. 5 for engineering and 3 for science. So if you X upgrade it, you could get 4 tactical consoles, which would be a little bit better, at least for the way that I like to build some of these things. But it's definitely engineering heavy, being that it's a cruiser. It has a turn rate of 7, so it's not going to turn on a dime like crazy, but not too terrible there. Impulse modifier of 0.14 and inertia of 30. We'll get +5 to all subsystems power. It's going to come with a universal console, like all tier 6 ships, premium ships, which is the Cnidarian Defender, Cnidarian Defense. I practiced all these before I started recording, I promise. And we'll take a look at the stats on that once we get a little bit lower here on the blog post. So it has the full suite of cruiser commands, and then our mastery package, where we're going to get plus physical and kinetical, Jesus, we'll clip it. Physical and kinetic damage resistance, hull regen, energy radiation damage resistance, max hull capacity. So you can see this is all survivability. From what I'm seeing, the theme on this, when we take a look at the console and on the trait, this is really it's supposed to be a tanky, healing kind of a ship, which makes sense for I guess what we saw on screen there. All right, here's the specs for the Admiralty card for the Admiralty system for the Universal console. All right, so what this is going to do, when you click this console, it's going to revert you from the UFO look to the natural state here, looking like the jellyfish, and it's going to extend this large sphere out around you. And what that is going to do, so you can toggle it on and off. It has a 2-minute cooldown, and what it's going to do is it's going to heal you and your allies around you. But it will deactivate your weapons, and you basically will not be able to move. So when it's active, weapons are off, your flight speed and turn rate are going to be at 3. Now, it is going to do damage to any of the foes that are around you, up to 5 of them. It's going to do heavy electrical damage and a 10% chance to briefly hold them. So you still will be able to do damage, and hopefully that'll also continue to draw threat. Because if you get in a position where maybe some of your teammates are dying and you're having problems, you could use this console, start to heal them, but still be able to do some damage to hold that threat. And when it says heavy damage, I don't know what that means, right? Until we check it out and actually try it. So as always with new consoles, traits, things like that, we'll really need to play with these to see what's going on in reality. And then lastly, and I know I kind of jumped around through this, but lastly, it's going to deactivate automatically if your hull drops below 10%. So you can still take damage and die even with this going. So it is not a God mode, heal, or save you and everybody else kind of thing. And the strength of it, again, it doesn't give us any kind of real stats on what it's going to do when it heals. So for your friends and teammates that are around you, up to 5 allies plus hit points plus damage resistance rating for 5 seconds. So it's not a super long duration, and it doesn't give us any kind of idea of how much healing you're actually going to get out of this. So we'll have to play with it and see. At minimum, it's going to be a pretty cool visual. So we'll check that out here as soon as we get our hands on it. All right, lastly, we have the Starship trait, and this is the Gelatinous Membrane. Activating Hull Healing or Miracle Working ability, grants to the target or self plus 80 physical and kinetic damage resistance rating, and reflects 25% physical and kinetic damage per resist back to attacker. Okay. Per resist, what does that mean? Is that like per hit? I'm not exactly sure what that means. Back to attacker for 10 seconds. So again, it's another kind of heal and help keep alive for your team or yourself. So I'm not super pumped about these. I am pretty excited about the ship. I think it's a decent ship that they're giving us. Again, just reading this, what these things do without actually seeing any kind of numbers exactly of what they do, it's hard to say, how useful it's going to be. So I'm not saying it's not. It just doesn't make me super pumped just reading it. But again, there's no real detail to it, so we'll have to check it out and see how it actually works in game once we get our hands on the ship. One also thing to note here is that the console can only be equipped to the Cnidarian Defender. So it cannot be equipped on any other ship. And I believe the reason for that is because it includes this animation of changing it to its natural jellyfish state, which is kind of a bummer. I hate when things are locked to particular ships, but I guess it makes sense because they added that animation. So again, that part's kind of a bummer. It's really nice when you can move these things around. Sometimes you can do some really nice stuff. If you could get it off that ship and onto something else that maybe synergizes better, with it. But in any case, that is what we're looking at for the summer event ship. Again, I think the ship's solid. I think the specs on it are solid. The seating looks good. It's not the best, meta-breaking thing in the game, but this is a great ship, and you'll be able to do very, very well with it, especially, again, if you're a newer player, this is your first Tier 6 ship you're getting, you're a budget player, you'll be able to put builds on this that are going to do very, very well. So I'm pretty pumped about the ship itself, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, guys. I appreciate you watching, as always, and until next time, have a good one, and stay safe. Hey guys, appreciate you watching. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, ring the bell, and sub to the channel for the latest news updates and how-to guides.